go directly into the subject. So we're doing 7 groups one by one, right? So we've done 3 groups so far. So today we're looking at loneliness and despair. We're combining 2 groups. So we'll begin with loneliness. Again, like with all other emotion groups, Dr. Bach classified loneliness or despair later into types. So it's not one remedy for all kinds of loneliness, but he often encourages, in his teachings, he said that when you're talking to a patient, understand the personality, understand what's the person going through, the situation and all of that, and then administer the remedy. So if, let's say, somebody comes to you saying, I have a person feeling lonely, you'll have to check what kind of a person, why lonely, what's the reason. So some amount of dialogue, or if not dialogue, some analysis definitely is necessary. Incidentally, all the remedies, there are 3 remedies for loneliness. All the 3 are also what we would call type remedies. In fact, the last time you spoke about if we could classify personality types and Bach, there is a correspondence, so that we're partly doing that here, where so you've got type remedies which are based on how people are personality-wise, so you can have remedies based on that, and you have situational remedies which are meant for specific kinds of situations. So all the 3 remedies for loneliness happen to be type remedies. So we're going to be talking about 3 types of people in effect. The first remedy in this case is water violet. If there's a clue word for this, it will be a person who's proud. Typically people that we would describe as having a lot of pride, that's the kind of a person that we're talking about. I'm not talking the arrogant sense of the term, but proud in the sense, somebody who wouldn't go ahead and ask for help, or let's say you and I have a fight, I wouldn't be the first one to come and mend the relationship.
That personality type, I don't need you.
Yeah, it's that sense of aloofness which says, I'm okay by myself. That's the kind of pride you're talking about, which then leads to loneliness. And because of that personality type, these are people who will tend to be aloof because they don't want a very intimate relationship which then becomes dependent, and then it's difficult to become distant. So they may come across as being very cold initially unless you know them very well, and then you realize that they're actually pretty good people. So if you find a person in general being very aloof, very distant from people, then water violet is a great remedy, where it's for people who prefer to be alone. Even if it's a group, you'll find them standing alone and doing their own thing. And in the process, they may feel lonely, but they'll never admit it. They'll never come out and say that I need friends or I need help. So that's the kind of a person we're talking about. So water violet breaks the emotional resistance layer and actually helps these people to connect better with others. It initiates a need to be warm to people, to connect and to socialize to some degree. And in that process, it reduces aloofness. So it's very typical type remedy. So if you find a person with those characteristics, works very well for that person to also ease off and feel secure in a social setting and feel secure to express his or her needs. Even with children, there are some children who will be very open about the fact that, oh, I've gotten hurt, I want attention and I want this. And there will be some who will never tell you that they've gotten hurt or they're injured or something's gone wrong and they're hurting. So with those kind of personalities, it's a good remedy to use. In terms of physical correspondence, water violet corresponds to this part of the ankle, just above the ankle bone. That's where, if there's an injury or something there, it maps well there. There are other parts of the body as well, but it maps clearly there. So that's the first one for loneliness. Second, yet another type remedy is impatience. As the name suggests, the root word here is impatience. So these are kind of people who are by nature impatient from the perspective that they believe that they can do things better and faster than other people. And they are genuinely, usually very skilled people, very intelligent, and therefore there is very low tolerance for somebody else's lack of skill or somebody else's slowness. And in that process, these people might get lonely in the sense that they have a feeling that nobody understands me. What in effect they don't understand is they are forever criticizing other people in terms of saying you're too slow and you're too tardy and you're too this, but they think that that's just genuine feedback, and they don't sense that other people might actually start being distant from them, because for the other it's criticism. Right? So people who end up creating loneliness as a result of their skill, so to say, for them impatience is a great remedy. It helps them to be a little more tolerant, and it over a period of time, impatience actually helps to increase tolerance and empathy. You find people who, and in a fairly fast acting way, so even if you take impatience for a couple of days, you will find people suddenly going calmer and actually being able to interact with people rather than criticize them. So again, a pretty wonderful remedy. Also a useful remedy, not so much from the loneliness point of view, but for stress levels, reducing stress levels in general. Impatience is a very good remedy. So if you're feeling mildly stressed out in general, you can use this as the kind of stress where, let's say your papers are stuck in a government office, that kind of stress, it helps there.
The stress normally is seen by the impatient people.
Yeah. Or the stress which doesn't have to be for an impatient person, but genuinely when there is red tape and you get very irritated, it helps to lower that kind of irritation. So that's impatience. And the third one for loneliness is heather. If you have to find a description for this kind of loneliness, here you're talking of loneliness that comes from the whole me kind of personality. These are people who you'll find would compulsively talk about themselves, even to a stranger. So let's say even if I've met you for the first time, I have no problems talking about my life story to you and talk of what are the problems I face and struggles in my life and all of that. So these are people who can't stand being alone. Even if they have to wait at a restaurant for 5 minutes before somebody comes, they'll probably find a waiter and start chatting up. They can't be by themselves. So it's here the heather kind of loneliness is the kind of loneliness which is coming from the fact that this person genuinely feels very alone, and the fact that there's a huge amount of victimhood in the personality. That I am the only struggler in life, and everyone around me is fine, so I am not okay. If you look at it from a transactional analysis perspective, it's a very typical I am not okay kind of a person. So this can be used with people who find it very difficult to live alone or be alone, even for a short period of time. You tell them, okay, there's no one to accompany me for a movie, so okay, can you go alone? And these are people who say, how can I be?
A lot of people do that.
Yeah.
Including me.
Either. You
might want to try Heather there. So yeah, people who don't like being alone and who have a compulsive need to share things with others. Both the cases. Also, Heather is useful in situations where you find people, when you're having a conversation with them, they will find some way to change the topic and start talking about themselves. So in that sense, they're pretty bad listeners. Even in a normal, regular conversation with an agenda, even if it's a business meeting, they'll find some link to kind of turn their attention back to themselves. That's a very typical Heather personality.
Attention snatcher.
Yeah, very hugely attention snatchers. You'll find the same traits even in children. Children who will not let you talk. If there are two adults sitting, they'll not let you talk. They want that attention on themselves. That's heather personality. So, to sum up, there are three things for loneliness. One is the water violet kind of loneliness, which is generated more out of the pride of a person, somebody who wants to be aloof because of a sense of superiority over others. Then there is impatience, which comes from the loneliness arising out of one's impatience and therefore intolerance for anyone else who does things differently or in a slower way as the person perceives it. And impatience is also used for gentle lowering of stress levels. And the third is heather, which is the me kind of a personality. Compulsive attention seekers. And also compulsive talkers. These are people who, if you happen to call them up, you have to call them when you have an hour's window. They will not let you hang up very easily. And the force of their conversation is often so much that you can't interrupt and stop and say, you can't really tell them to shut up. So that's the kind of...
And they will not ask where you are and they will just start bombarding.
Yeah, they will start.
It's nice to know others to talk.
Yeah, so, and of course that whole attention-seeking behavior is genuinely because they're feeling very lonely, so they don't think anybody connects to them. So the moment they find an opportunity, they will grab onto you. So those are the remedies that help in terms of cracking that emotional layer which leads to the loneliness in the first place, and then start building up, building the resistance. So those are three remedies for loneliness. Then the other group that we're talking about today is despair. Despair, despondency, both are what Dr. Bach classified them as. So here we're talking about varying degrees of what you might call sadness. So right from being mildly upset to extreme despondency, there's a range of remedies to cover all of those. So we can start with Larch. Larch is a great remedy for confidence, boosting self-confidence, self-esteem. It's a lovely remedy to have. So if this is a remedy for a person who feels low about oneself, probably because of some mild failure, or maybe I participated in a competition and didn't win. So that sense of feeling low can be easily healed by Larch. Also for people, young adults or even children who are generally low in confidence, and therefore there's stage fright and there is that sense of not wanting to talk to strangers and all of that because of esteem issues, Larch is a very good long-term remedy to have. You keep giving it for a few weeks or months, it really boosts confidence because Larch helps to heal any self-image blocks. So in the process, yes, it might bring up memories of whatever created that block in the first place, but over time it starts healing that block as well. Good remedy to have if you're operating in a very competitive kind of an environment, whether it's at the workplace or otherwise, where there's a huge sense of pressure to perform. Larch is a good remedy to keep up the spirit and not start doubting oneself. Wherever you find a person talking in the language of self-doubt, in terms of saying, I don't know if I can handle this, or I'm not good enough, that kind of language is a clue for Larch. The personality of the flower very clearly says it's a very upright, clear, bright kind of a flower. So that gives a clue to the usage. That's Larch. Pine, a very, very wonderful remedy. Pine is a remedy for guilt, and it's the usage is huge in the sense of anybody and everybody can really benefit from pine because there's so much of social conditioning that involves guilt in terms of even things like, oh, you didn't score well in your exams, you've done so badly for your parents, they've invested in you so much. So you keep feeding guilt from that age till much older in life, where even a working mother starts feeling guilty for the children that are left behind, to genuine guilt in terms of something that you've done wrong and therefore you're feeling guilty. So guilt is a very huge presence in the mass consciousness because our society in a way feeds on guilt. Most relationships in a way feed on guilt. So pine is a lovely remedy to get rid of that and say, this is not what I'm responsible for, and I've done whatever I had to do, and if situations went wrong, they went wrong. So it helps to de-ink it very beautifully. From a despair perspective, pine is great for people who are who are taking their efforts, but who'll always say, I'm never good enough, I'll never be satisfied with what I do. So I have a target of earning 1 crore this year. Even if I achieve it, I'll be like, okay, 1 crore is okay, next year let's do 5 crores. And so that they'll never have a sense of satisfaction about themselves. They'll not let themselves celebrate that 1 crore and then move to the 5. They'll say, isme kya tha? Now let's move on to the next thing. So the perpetual sense of discontent with oneself, with everything about oneself, the way one looks, the way one works, one's relationships. There's always a sense of I want more. That's where pine helps a lot. And also a remedy for people who sometimes very willingly take up guilt and take up sometimes others' responsibility and others' guilt in the process. So even if something goes wrong in your environment and you have nothing to do with it, you still take it up and say, nahi, meri galti hai, maybe if I was not here, aisa nahi hota. So that kind of a guilt, pine is a lovely remedy to use. Again, a good long-term remedy if you find a person having grown up with guilt consciousness, which is incidentally a lot of times is also imbibed through religion. That sense of fear saying, mandir nahi gaye to ye hoga, or you've not done a confession for 3 months, you're going to hell. That kind of a guilt consciousness which is imbibed by religion, pine helps to lower that consciousness. Lower it not in the sense of making a person brazen or shameless, but in terms of being logical about it and saying you're not responsible for everything in the world. So it helps to lighten the spirit. Then you've got L. If I have to state it in one way, the way I've put it there, it's for a weak moment in the lives of the strong. So L is typically meant for a fairly strong personality who might just get momentarily discouraged because of something going wrong or too much happening in life and therefore that feeling of being overwhelmed and cannot handle reality. L is a remedy for that sort of a
Sort of depression.
Mild depression where you're saying, oh God, there's too much to handle, I don't want to do this. So that kind of a momentary depression, not extreme sadness, but mild depression. So when you feel sometimes overwhelmed by responsibility, there are too many people and things to handle, L gives strength there. Also a sense of exhaustion sometimes, in a sense, I've done enough and there's nothing more that I can do in this situation. There, elm is a remedy for strengthening a person.
Busy corporate executives and all this.
Busy and also fairly responsible. Somebody who's not shunning away responsibility, but at the same time,
but feeling some
genuinely
frustrated because of the not cannot handle something.
Yeah, but there's way too much to handle. How much can I do? That kind of a statement is a clue for elm.
There is one example. The actress who expired 3 months back, Suchitra Sen, what is told and what is observed about her, she had an illustrious career, and one of her movie, it didn't generate any results.
Okay.
And then he stopped acting,
Oh.
and she practically discarded herself from the tender industry.
Oh. Okay.
Is this the reason for despair? Can this be overcome? Any such kind of with this? If there is other,
That sounds more
we
like a
can
case
talk
for
about other
Pine.
topic.
Maybe she disconnected in the sense that she thought she was responsible for that failure.
she was responsible for failure, and now she will never get any acceptance from the society in general.
That's more a pine case.
Fine.
Well, she didn't have to assume responsibility for the full movie. She was only one part of it. But then, if she took that on, that's a pine
Because
person.
all the while she used to get pat from the first day
Mm.
on every other movie or anywhere, whatever she does.
Yeah. Pine and then, yeah, sweet chestnut later if she got into that state of depression. You have to support her.
For 30 years she didn't do anything.
That's extreme.
Only after that.
Yeah. But that's pine plus sweet chestnut more likely. Elm is where the person is generally strong.
Okay.
It's not a person tending towards depression.
And she was strong all the way.
Okay. So L, if you've detected it
Okay.
early enough, you
Fine.
could have given L there. In general, the person is bright and strong, but there are moments where there are a slight sense of depression. So that is L. Sweet chestnut is a very crucial remedy where you're talking of the sense of depression, sadness getting to a degree of extreme despondency where the person doesn't want to take it anymore. Almost getting to a point of being suicidal sometimes. Or wanting to totally give up and disconnect and have nothing to do with the world. That kind of
Feeling of helplessness, hopelessness.
absolute hopelessness.
Like he explained.
Yeah, in fact that's why I thought sweet chestnut might have been a better remedy in her case because you're talking 13 years where just sustain that state.
30
30, oh,
30.
okay. That's okay.
or more than that. When this happened when she was 42 and when she expected about 80 or 81.
Almost 4 decades there. Yeah. Then sweet chestnut was probably what she could have used. Here you're talking of a person who says, this is it, I can't take it anymore. That the maximum limit of endurance has been reached. That's when sweet chestnut helps. Or where there is a feeling that kya rakha hai? That there's only depression and destruction ahead. There is nothing that I have to look forward to in life. So I'm not going to do anything. So that's where sweet chestnut helps. If you find a person in this stage also getting suicidal, club this with cherry plum. The combination works to help the person stabilize and say it's alright, there is no limit. You can move forward and there is a world outside of this limit also. So, sweet chestnut, if you remember the last time we spoke about gentian and gorse, gentian is a remedy for faith in general, a general sense of positive attitude. Gorse is where the person is feeling hopeless to some degree. Sweet chestnut is the other extreme of hopelessness, where you've crossed the gorse state. Gorse is for regular sense of hopelessness, it's okay. Sweet chestnut is where the person is not even willing to listen and talk and enter into a conversation where you're trying to encourage. If the person refuses to enter into a conversation, then you're possibly looking for sweet chestnut.
But this combination, if you're going to give, you have to give it equal amount.
Yeah. Depending on if you find the person about to jump off, probably dump him in cherry plum first and then get here. But yeah, otherwise pretty much equal alternate in between. But it's good long-term remedy if you want to shift that state, because the sweet chestnut state is obviously coming after extreme sense of pressure or failure or whatever it is. So normally when a person gets to this state, you will also have to do a pre-check in terms of what brought the person here and give a remedy for that as well. Like cherry plum if there's a genuine depressive suicidal tendency. Or it could be where there are personality, let's say low esteem which has resulted in this over a period of time, then you want to combine larch with sweet chestnut. Like let's say a person who's depressed because of a general unsuccessful career, keeps getting laid off or keeps losing jobs. There it's a case of larch because there's a self-image issue, and then combine it with sweet chestnut. So see what is leading to this state first. Start of Bethlehem, a very nice, soothing remedy. It's a remedy for
It says so.
Shanti. Yeah, the name and the flower itself says so. It's a part of the rescue remedy as well, one of the 5 things in rescue. Helps to deal with the general sense of unhappiness, despair. Good remedy if there's a bit of shock in terms of somebody's had a fall or a little accident or something like that. It's a good remedy to bring down that shock and restore a sense of well-being and peace. Lovely remedy to use for meditation. In general, not from a non-healing perspective, if you're meditating, it's a nice remedy to start with. It kind of stills you in a way. Also a very good remedy for during childbirth, both the mother and the child, that whole shock of childbirth, Star of Bethlehem helps to calm down, especially the baby because of that whole trauma of labor. It helps the baby calm down and adjust to the environment much easier. You don't have to give it to the baby. You can
before the delivery.
You can give the mother during the process also. I mean, just keep applying it. And the baby you can apply after the birth.
Because baby is also in the shock.
Yeah, in fact, the shock for the baby is much more than the mother. So you can apply, use it for both. Star of Bethlehem works in a way if you're giving it for accident or injury kind of cases, or someone's had a fall and there's a shock kind of a thing. It helps to clear the tissue memory of the injury. So it actually surfaces the memory. Sometimes you'll find that if you're if you suddenly start taking Star of Bethlehem, some old injuries that might not have healed completely and you think they've healed, they actually start paining. If you've had an accident a few years ago or something. Sometimes we think it's healed and you move on. So it's possible that if you start on Star of Bethlehem, you might start getting a few aches and pains here and there. It's alright because it surfaces memories of injuries in order to heal it. So sustain with it. It's alright even if it brings up memories. It will clear the tissue memory. So its mode of clearance is to bring it up. The way a lot of other homeopathic medicines do. They bring up things and then they start healing it. It works in a similar way. But overall, it's a remedy for Shanti, peace. So it's nice for a gentle sense of unhappiness. It's if you find a very drastic use, but it actually helps to spray Star of Bethlehem in a room where you think there's a funeral or something where people are in general.
That also helps. Because that
you're inhaling and ingesting it. So spray it into the AC or something that actually helps. So a very versatile remedy, not just for despair, but you can use it for multiple purposes. And if you're using it for physical injuries, then do it in a sustained way till it completely heals up.
But then in that case, it should be near around the location of injury or as usual on the palm.
No, you can apply it on whatever the location is, you can apply it there. It might initially actually increase the pain for a while, that's okay. It's increasing it to just bring the memory out. So that's alright. You can look at the nature of the flower is also such. It usually pushes up to the plant and then surfaces. That's the way it tends to work. It actually brings it up to the skin level and then it gets out. So that's Star of Bethlehem. Willow. Willow as the willow plant is a very droopy kind of a plant. You'll find it a lot in up north, Kashmir, all those areas. It's a tall plant, but the leaves are droopy, the flower is droopy. If you look at the flower, it's kind of hanging. So it's the sort of a remedy which is for a person who's feeling droopy, sad, a very extreme sadness. It's a remedy for that kind of despair, where if you look at the willow as a personality, you will look at people who are in general unable to accept adversity. Why me? That's a willow symptom. You know, why did this have to happen to me? What did I do wrong? सब कुछ तो अच्छा किया था. Where have I sinned? That's the kind of a willow personality. The people who keep feeling sorry about themselves. हमेशा मेरे साथ ही बुरा होता है. That's the kind of willow personality. Also, when you find a person in general in a sulking mood or constantly grumbling about something, a few drops of willow actually sparks the person up, like almost instantly. There's a sense of cheerfulness that you find with willow. If you have to grade it, you're talking of a pretty high degree of sadness and sorrow in this case. Not the sweet chestnut level, but lower than that. Oak is a remedy for inner strength, the strength of the spirit. For someone who says, here oak is typically a very positive kind of a personality. In the sense, someone who will work hard and harder and never realize that he or she is getting tired. For that kind of a personality, oak is a very good remedy where it keeps giving them strength, it keeps boosting their strength. Good remedy for athletes, extreme athletes who are very physically active. It helps those, and in general people who are overachievers, extremely ambitious, oak helps to kind of fuel them. And for those kind of people, if they get despaired, it's more because, I've not done enough. It's not that they've not done enough, but they want to do more. They're generally very ambitious. So oak helps to heal that mood where they're saying, I've not done enough. It gives them strength to keep propelling it further. Oak is also a lovely remedy from a physical point of view if you're feeling very tired and energyless sometimes. After a long day or after a journey, there's a sense of sheer physical exhaustion. Oak helps to gain that strength. It's like having a glass of Glucon-D or something. It actually helps to gain physical strength. Dr. Bach also spoke of oak as a remedy for common sense, in the sense of it actually helps the overachiever, ambitious kind of a personality. Oak actually helps the person to say it's time to give up. But sometimes it doesn't really make sense to sustain. You really need to break the loop. And these are people who will find it very difficult to give up. Oak actually helps them to say, it's alright, you've done enough now, stop it, now give up.
Take a break.
In a very commonsensical way, not in terms of saying stop making efforts, but in terms of saying it doesn't make sense to make effort here. So now stop it. So
be in the flow.
It helps to commonsensically know where to stop. The oak personalities typically are the sorts who are extremely persistent, they'll never stop. And sometimes you really need to stop because it doesn't make sense to it. So oak is a remedy for that, where you can tell them that this is it now, stop there. The way oak works is it helps you to gain inner strength to a degree where it tells the person, okay, I already have it in me, I don't have to achieve it outside. So the compulsiveness to achieve it outside is in a way stemmed by oak. It doesn't make the person less of an achiever or less ambitious, but just curtails it to a good degree. And finally there is crabapple for despair. The crabapple kind of despair is more people who are in general, they feel very ugly or irritated or bad about themselves in a physical sense, that I'm not clean enough. Or sometimes people have that compulsive thing of washing their hands, or they carry that sanitizer and keep using it. Crabapple is a remedy for that sense of uncleanliness, which is more psychological than real. Also a good remedy for people who are very paranoid about cockroaches and flies and lizards, and they can't take it to an extreme degree, because anything that is yucky, creepy, crawly, unclean, it gets an extreme reaction from these people. For those, crabapple is a lovely remedy in the sense it cleanses. It's a natural cleanser. Very good to use if you're doing any sort of a detox diet or something like that. Crab apple is a very good addition. It really magnifies the effect of.
Detox. Now, detox a diet means what? Do we have to combine the food?
Yeah, you can put it in the food or in the water when you're having it. It really enhances the.
Even for skin disease also you can use.
Yeah, even for skin disease, if you have minor scratches and burns and stuff, crab apple actually helps. It's also a good, like if you've just had an injury and you don't have any medicines or anything, just pour some crab apple on it. It will ensure that there is no infection. Sometimes you don't get water or anything nearby. A few drops of crab apple actually ensures that it cleanses the toxins out of it, so there's no infection. Especially if you're dealing with a lot of animals and they tend to scratch and all of that. You can't keep cleaning all the time. So their crab apple helps a lot. In general, it's a nice, for healers, if you're doing a lot of healing work, it's a good remedy to have once a week or so, just as a cleanser. Even if you're not in despair, just as a cleanser, it's a nice remedy. Have it one day intensive.
Just for a day.
Yeah, once a week or so.
In the
Just
bath
put it in water.
bath water.
You can do it with bath water also, or just ingest it, because if you want to detox the whole system, it's a nice remedy to have. Put it in a bottle.
Because like that healer do with salt and all.
Salt water, yeah. You can do that also. It magnifies the effect. But in general, ingest it a little bit, doesn't hurt. So do that. Put a few drops of crab apple in a bottle and drink it. It's cleansing. Overall, the impact of crab apple is cleansing. So it's not something that you would use for extreme despair, but you would use it for when a person is trying to deal with a memory of something that is bringing up despair. It sort of cleanses the effect of that memory. So it's a very good support remedy for all the others, because it helps to kind of cleanse the whatever is the residual part. It purges it out of the system. So yeah, that's crab apples. Very good for skin infections. So yeah, that's for today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.